So drink and take off your clothes is basically the instruction for the evening. It's going to be a good time. All right, so without further ado, our first performer is Mary Werner.
Thank you, Joey. I could cry salty tears. Where have I been all of these years? Little while, tell me now, how long has this been going on? I grew up in a tiny town in South Dakota. It was a typical tiny town with a wide front street with tall storefronts. And it was a county seat, so when you walked to the end of the block, which was Main Street, you turn right at the bakery, and there you see our courthouse, like a miniature federal building in some kind of sandstone. And it was on a plaza. And then when you walk past that building, toward the west, you turn to your left, and there's our church, St. Thomas. And then you look up to your right, and there, on top of what passes as a hill in South Dakota, is our school. It's a big school. It serves the whole county, all the surrounding farms. And we were a family of 4. My mom and 3 daughters. After my dad died in World War II, she had a rough time of it. I don't remember too much. I was only 4, but it was very hard for her. And she had wonderful friends. She always had a friend with her for quite a while there. And she became very strong. And she was a force to be reckoned with. By the time we started school, we had to have good grades, good behavior, and we had to always use good grammar. And without a male, masculine presence in our home, we became a bit like a nunnery. We walked 4 blocks to Mass on Sunday through all kinds of weather, and grace before meals and bedtime prayers and the rosary. But then as we got a little bit older into grade school, we got too wrangly for her. She'd have to say to us, "Now stop your squabbling," which is what it sounded like, you know, when kids are yelling back and forth. So she'd have us go 2 doors down to the movie theater. And we learned our life lessons, got our education from the movies. And we saw westerns, war stories, comedies, and those glorious musicals of the 50s. We would sing and dance all the way home and all around the house all week long. But it gave me a kind of a rosy view of the idea of romance. And I could imagine scenarios with Gregory Peck and Paul Newman and James Dean. Oh, I think that I could melt into heaven I'm hurled. I know how Columbus felt, finding another world. Kiss me once, then once more. What a dunce I was before. What a break, for heaven's sake. How long has this been going on? And then I I went on to college with the help of the GI Bill and the Knights of Columbus. We came to St. Catherine's. Mother liked the idea of 4 more years of shelter with the nuns at St. Kate's. So there we were. It wasn't all that sheltered after all, but we had a very good time, and it was very hard. Oh, I studied harder than I knew I could. And then between my junior and senior years, I got a job in a summer camp, Camp Manakiki at Lake Waconia. And there was a boy there, and and he taught swimming and boating and taught the campers how to water ski. And I was in the craft cabin teaching them little doodads and things like that. And we tired them out with activities all day. And after the final campfire, we'd tuck them into their bugs. And then we'd pull a canoe out onto the lake and paddle out to the middle of the lake. And we were under a blanket of stars. It couldn't have been more romantic. You see, it was like having a crush on somebody who has a crush on you. It's just amazing. And, but summer ended, camp broke up, and we did too. He went back to his former girlfriend, and I went back to my senior year at St. Kate's. Broken-hearted, no joke. I was very broken-hearted about that. Say it isn't so. Say it isn't so. Everybody's saying you don't love me. Say it isn't so. Everywhere I go, everyone I know whispers you're getting tired of me. Say it isn't so. People say that you found somebody new, and it won't be long before you leave me. Say it isn't true. Say that everything is still okay. That's all I need to know. And what they're saying, say it isn't so. That was bad. Thank you. So that was many, many decades ago that all this happened. And I've lived up and down, topsy-turvy now and then, different kind of an existence. But I find myself thrown up on the shores of the pink cloud that is Episcopal Homes. And I'm very happy about that. I love my new friends. I have some very wonderful older friends that were with us last night. And my sisters, of course, and my children. Great family. I'm very, very blessed. And I have a thought that if you wake up with love in your heart every day, the joy will just keep coming, day after day. And happily ever after is meant for everybody. Kiss me once, then once more. What a dunce I was before. What a break, for heaven's sake. How long has this been going on? friend Carol Barney. I'm a little run down by seeing a couple of my friends over here.
Hello. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I can't believe I'm here again. And I say again, Joey told you most of the story about how our cabaret got started, but he left out an important part for me. That is, when we were still talking about the idea, he brought us all here to this very room to hear a cabaret that he performed at with several of his friends. And I was sitting right there. And Mary Jo was next to me, and I looked at her, and I looked up, and I looked at her again. I looked up, I said, "That's Elvis Presley." No. I said, "Yes, it is. I would know. That's Elvis Presley." And so, because Elvis was looking at me, I realized that's what my cabaret had to be all about. You see, when I was 12 years old, 1957, ages ago, Elvis started to gain in fame. Now, he actually was growing in fame for quite some time, but I didn't know it. He was in Memphis. He was a truck driver who was a very good singer, and he sang rhythm and blues, Memphis style rhythm and blues. So let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Memphis is a long way from International Falls, Minnesota. So it took me a while to get to know him, but once I did, I couldn't let go. See, he sang those rhythm and blues songs, and they were a lot like this. Well, it's 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready and go, 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 go. Don't you step on my blue suede shoe. You can do anything, lay off of my blue suede shoe. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't never caught a rabbit, ain't no friend of mine. Yeah. 12-year-old girls just beginning to go through puberty, you really, really notice a guy. Especially a hot guy. Now just look at him, ladies and gentlemen, look at him. Those brooding eyebrows, that straight nose, those sensuous lips. How could anyone not love him? Well, that was me. And I didn't really get to see him. Now, I don't know if you all are from Minnesota, so you would know International Falls is very remote. We didn't have cable in those days. I didn't have television. I never saw him on the Ed Sullivan Show. I only got to see him in like movie magazines. Yeah. And it took a long time. I had nothing but my 45s with those great big fat holes in the middle until his first movie came to town. Now, this movie was my first chance to see him in motion. I went to the movie, I sat through it 3 times, I screamed at every song, and then, in the end of the movie, he died. And when he died, I cried 3 times. Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made about 3 more, quick succession, Jailhouse Rock, Lovin' You, and King Creole. But then, he was drafted. That doesn't happen anymore. You know, just think. A young man gets drafted and his life gets put on hold, and off he goes to Germany. And that gave me a chance to focus on high school and get through it. But eventually he came back, and it was just about that time that my family decided to move to Hawaii. Come with me while the moon is on the sea. The night is young and so are we. Dreams come true in blue Hawaii, and mine will all come true this magic night of nights with you. The 50s rolled into the 60s. Elvis was making movies, silly, slick movies, lots of girls, lots of music, but they all had the same plot. Meanwhile, on the rock and roll charts, he was replaced by people like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. It was the age of flower power. We're in the 60s now, remember. Elvis was not a flower child. But neither was I. So I kept my eye on him through all those tacky movies. And then, 1968, he makes a comeback. And how did he do it? With a concert. And he realized, being in the room with all those girls, that was where his power lied. And he made lots of concerts and sold out seasons at the Las Vegas Hilton. Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva, viva Las Vegas! Years rolled on. Elvis was making concerts right and left and center and live from Hawaii via satellite and everywhere else. And he was getting a little older. This is, now we're getting into the 70s. It's almost 20 years since he got started. And his audiences were getting a little older too. 12 became 32. But, the ladies didn't mind if he put on a few pounds because they did too. And then, suddenly, unexpectedly, untimely, Elvis died at the young age of 42. After he died, his fans didn't forget him. But as I'm finding out now, they remain faithful. 40 years goes by, and you can find them at retirement homes. Now Elvis ended every concert he ever gave with this one song. And I think it was because he knew how the women loved him. And he loved them right back. Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has left the building. And now I have the great pleasure of introducing Beth Tisdale.
Thank you. I just realized that I'm just a country girl, but I get to follow Elvis. That's a thrill. Actually, I am a country girl from a farm near Olivia, Minnesota. And we had chickens and a few other animals, but I never can remember what the other animals were. Doesn't matter because my job was taking care of the chickens, and I think you can guess how I felt about that. And I used to sing everywhere on the farm, except I did not sing for the chickens because they did not deserve music. So every year my dad would plant seeds and hope for the crops to be good. Sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. But, however, everything we grew started as seeds. Sometimes I stopped on my way home to watch the children play, and I wondered if they wondered what they'd be someday. Some would dream a big dream and make it all come true, while others go on dreaming of things they'll never do. We're all just seeds in God's hands. We start the same, but where we land is sometimes fertile soil, sometimes sand. We're all just seeds in God's hands. And as I'm standing at a crossroads once again, I'm reminded we're all the same where we begin. I saw a friend the other day I hardly recognized. He'd done a lot of living since I last looked in his eyes. He told a tale of how he'd failed, the lessons he'd been taught, and he offered no excuses, and he left me with this thought: we're all just seeds in God's hands. We start the same, but where we land is sometimes fertile soil, sometimes sand. We're all just seeds in God's hands. We're all just seeds in God's hands. I was born with cataracts and it left me with some vision issues, but I had music to help me cope with that. And music was my friend, and it still is. Actually, I think music is a little like love. It can't give you everything, but it can give you what you need. When I think of people I've lost, it also gives me comfort. And this does as well. So give yourself to love. Kind friends all gathered round, there's something I would say, that what brings us together here has blessed us all today. Love has made a circle that holds us all inside, where strangers are as family and love alone can't hide. You must give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Love is born in fire. It's planted like a seed. Love can't give you everything, but it gives you what you need. Love hope is that we will plant the seed of love. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you the wonderful Carol McClellan.
Again, out where a friend is a friend, where the lonely cattle feed, I'm the lonely gypsy weed. I'm back in the saddle again. Well, you folks are probably wondering why this sophisticated lady is singing a crazy cowboy song. Well, it's all on account of Gene Autry. When I was about this high, I used to tune in on a big old radio in this dining room to the Gene Autry show every Sunday afternoon. And he always started his shows with that song. How many of you folks were born after 1945? Lots. Well, some of you may not
Can I
realize.
just say, in our last shows, it was like hardly like 5 people. So this is like amazing. It's like hey, Kristen.
True. Well, anyway, some of you young people may not realize that newspapers and radio were the only sources of news and entertainment on a daily basis back in the 1930s and the 1940s. Radio in those days was like television, only without the pictures. And I listened to Gene Autry on that radio show every Sunday afternoon for at least 2 years. And I learned to love all those old Western standards. Western music, cowboy music, if you will, is all about the wide open spaces of the Rocky Mountain states. Think of cowboys singing songs around a campfire, under dark skies at night just glittering with stars. Yeah, they're singing songs about the open trail over prairies and mountains and deserts. And it's a lonely life. And it's also somewhat hazardous life. Well, this is true. These cowboy hats here are not just part of the costume. They protect the cowboy from the glaring sun and from the nasty weather. And cowboy boots that most of the guys wore were protections against cactus and rattlesnakes and tumbleweeds. Hey fella, will you hold my hat for me? See them tumbling down, pledging their love to the ground. Lonely but free I'll be found, drifting along to the tumbleweeds. I know when night is gone that a new day is born at dawn. I'll keep rolling along. Deep in my heart is a song. Here on the range I belong, drifting along with the tumble and tumbleweeds. Well, it was a few years. A few years went by and radio sort of fell by the wayside because television entered the scene. That was the last I saw or heard of Gene Autry. There were lots of Western shows on television, but they didn't seem to utilize that good old Western music I had grown to love. Oh well, decades and decades went by. And after we retired, my husband and I traveled all around the United States. And we went down south looking for a nice warm place to spend some winters. While we were there in Arizona, in one Arizona town, we ran into a Western celebration complete with storytelling and cowboy poetry recitation. And lots of that great Western music I hadn't heard in decades. One group sang an absolutely smashing rendition of my favorite Western song, Cool Water. I'm sorry.
All day.
Sorry, folks. Just lost it. All day I faced the barren waste without a taste of water, cool water. Oh, Dad and I, with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water. Keep a moving, Dan, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's a devil, not a man, and he spreads the burning sands with water. Oh, Dan, do you see that big green tree where the water's running free, and it's waiting there for you and me? The night is cool and I'm a fool. Each star's a pool of water, cool water. But with the dawn I'll rise and yawn and carry on to water, cool, clear water. You probably know, like us, that Arizona is an absolutely fabulous state. It's all about the freedom of those wide open skies and lands, beautiful vistas, incredible sunshine, and those purple shadows moving across the faces of the mountains. And the people we met in Arizona were also, it seemed, filled with the spirit of that freedom that we saw in the land. In this last song, it's all about that spirit of freedom, and if you know it, I'd like you to sing it along with me. Oh, give me land, lots of land under starry skies above. Don't fence me in when we ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself in the evening breeze, listening to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in. Just turn me loose, let me straddle my old saddle underneath the western skies. On my kite, let me wander over yonder till I see the mountains rise. now, won't you give a warm welcome to my friend Doris Utke.
That's kind of hard to follow. Years ago, when I was growing up, back in the 50s, there really weren't a lot of opportunities for young people to find jobs to earn a little spending money. There was lawn mowing and occasionally in Missouri some snow shoveling, but I guess babysitting was the one that seemed to work best, and that was the one I thought I would choose to do. I got my first babysitting job when I was in junior high school, and I hadn't really been around young children much before then, because we didn't have any in our family and we didn't have any in the neighborhood. But as I got used to taking care of the same children week after week or month after month, and I had a chance to watch them grow and develop and see how, as they moved through the years, I came to realize that I really enjoyed being with young children. So by the time I went off to college, I was pretty sure that was what I wanted to do. Well, a wedding interrupted college, and family kind of delayed the degree, and so it was about 10 years or so later when I was finally, the boys, our two older sons were in school full time, and I could decide it was time for me to go back to school, finish my degree, and find a job. Well, I enrolled at George Peabody College for Teachers in Nashville, Tennessee, because they had a program, a degree in early childhood education, which really appealed to me. And I found a job teaching as an assistant teacher in the preschool that our church sponsored for families in the community. And so I became the 3-year-old classroom assistant because I didn't have a degree yet. So once again, I had a chance to be around a group of children that age, and I found that it was really a lot of fun. But one of the things that I really, really enjoyed was that at 3, children are learning so much, so fast, that you can see it happen in their faces. You can, that smile, grin comes across the face, the eyes light up, that light bulb goes on, and it just happens. So I want to share a story that I experienced in that classroom. Chang was one of our 3-year-olds. His family had just moved to Nashville from China. He didn't have a lot of English yet. He was still learning. And he had entered our class late. He didn't start our class until November. And most of the children, of course, had started in September. Well, if you've ever tried to get involved in a group of people that are already organized and functioning and doing things, it's not easy. And so he was taking his time and looking and doing some of the more solitary things as he got to know the children. But one of his favorite activities was painting at our paint easel, which was available to the children almost every day. And it had a large sheet of paper on it, and 3-year-olds don't really paint pictures as such. They kind of explore with color. And so to avoid sending home pictures of brown every day, we never put more than 2 primary colors of the easel at any one time, on any one day. And on this particular day, the 2 colors of the easel were blue and yellow. And Shane picked up a paintbrush of blue and a paintbrush of yellow and started working on his picture. Finished the paper. It took him a while. Completely covered the paper with paint. Stood back, looked at his work, and said, "Green!" Well, I wanted to look at Chang and say, "Chang, it's not easy being green." It's not easy being green, having to spend each day the color of the leaves, when I think it could be nicer being red or yellow or gold or something much colorful like that. It's
'cause you're not standing out like flashy sparkles in the water or stars in the sky. But green is the color of spring, and green can be cool and friendly like, and green can be big as an ocean, or important like a mountain, or tall as a tree. When green is all there is to be, could make you wonder why wonder? You are green, it'll be fine. I think that's what you want to be. Well, Shane did become green. He joined the classroom, the kids got to know him, and he got to know them, and he really did extremely well. One of the focuses of our class, one of the purposes of the class was to help children learn all those special, important skills that we all need all the way through life. Sharing, caring, solving problems, talking out issues, all of those things that we hope everybody's going to learn. And our role as teachers was really to kind of help that along as any way that we could, as the children needed help. And one of the things that we fostered was that they could really have a lot of time for free play in the morning. They could choose activities, they could work from group to group and do what they wanted. But every December, we took an empty classroom and put a child-sized nativity scene in it. There was a manger with straw, and we had pillows that we put cotton balls on and turned into sheep, and we had sawhorses that got blankets over them and became donkeys, and we had a play area and a sand area, and the children had the opportunity to come in there and play. And one day when I was in there observing, or supervising, whichever, we had a group of about 3 or 4 children that were playing in the manger. And Andy was kind of standing out over here. And I'd been kind of watching what was going on. And every so often Andy would start to move towards the group, and one of the children would turn around and say, "You can't come in here." Or another one might say, "We don't need you." And I was kind of watching Andy's face and looking at him to see how he was taking this, and did I need to step in and either try to divert him to another activity or see if we could work something out. And I thought, but he didn't look like he was upset. He didn't look bothered at all. And so I thought, well, I'm going to watch a little bit longer. And sure enough, one more time he started into the circle, and one little girl turned around and said, "We don't need you. You can't come in." And then she added, "And who would you be?" Oh. And I thought, okay. Well, I started to move towards the group, and about that time I heard this small voice, and I thought, okay, what's happening? And I wasn't really very small finally. And out of Andy's mouth came, "I'm God." I don't know where he got that. I didn't tell him. But it solved the problem. Turned around and they let him in, and I thought to myself, you know, I think Andy has this down pat. Long time ago in Bethlehem, so the Holy Bible say, Mary's boy child Jesus Christ was born on Christmas Day. Hark now, hear the angels sing, a new King born today, and we shall live forevermore because of Christmas Day. For a moment the world was aglow, all the bells rang out, there were tears of joy and laughter, people shouted, let everyone know there is hope for all to find peace. Well, I did finally finish my degree, and I did spend most of my life working with young children. And now as I think back over all of those years that I spent with them, I just can't help but feel like that many of them had learned the tools and the gifts that they needed and had grown to be good citizens in this world. People shouted, let everyone know there is hope for all to find peace. And now I'd like to introduce Susan Hardman.
What would we do without Joey? Or what would I do? So everybody said hi, hello, welcome. So hi. Hi. Hello. I have something to share with you. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Hi. You all are special. And so am I. So, how do you learn to be special? Huh? I started out, well, you can start in a lot of different ways, but I started out growing up in a seaside community outside New York City. And it was kind of shaped like a horseshoe. It had all these houses around it, and then at the base of that was a boathouse and water, and we were all free to run around, which we did. I had open houses, open doors, surrogate mothers in addition to mine. So I had like Kitty Lockwood and Marion Davis and my mom and all these people who thought that I was really something. This is the 1940s. And so, you know, that was my first glimpse of being special. And I went on to a next neighborhood, which was in the 60s when I left home. And it was 68, and then through the 70s. So, do you remember what was going on in 1968 besides me getting married? And Mr. Fred Rogers coming on TV? What else was going on? Anybody?
The moon.
The moon. Yes, that was the good stuff. Yes, and Vietnam. And a bit of racism. No, a lot, actually. Yes. And so, here was this very kind of thin guy on TV, the old TVs. He had a zip-up sweater, right? And he had on tennis shoes, and he'd come casually through. And here was a guy with a very quiet, strong strength whose values carried us through that time. Now, there is a documentary in town about his life. If you've seen it, it is profound. And if you haven't seen it, maybe you can pick it up. But wow, we could really use his voice today. And so, I had a husband and 3 sons, yes. Anyway, we would gather around the TV, and our boys, who were the boys of the 70s, they loved him just as much as I did, and their favorite friend on his show was Daniel Tiger, who's a cute little fellow. Actually, that was Mr. Rogers' voice. So, Mr. Rogers did us a big favor in carrying us through that pretty tumultuous time, with the exception of the moon. So you move on in your life. You move to other neighborhoods. And your neighborhood doesn't have to look like your house. It can be other kinds of neighborhoods, emotional neighborhoods, whatever. Anyway, the next one for me was, like my friend Doris, who was just here, I became a preschool early childhood educator. And we would set up our classrooms every year, and they would ask you things like, so how do you organize your room? And I would say, well, I really don't first. I actually am more interested in self-esteem for little people. And so, instead of me being the recipient of being special, I was giving it to the children at this point. So I had a great big full-length mirror, and they would line up, and I'd say, now just one at a time, you go stand in front of the mirror, and I want you to tell yourself something that you like you like your ears, your big feet, you know, whatever it was, or your hamster, or your mom. Anyway, every day they did that. So, also, when they had snack, because we had snack, and they'd sit next to each other, and I'd say, this sounds really directive, but I did it. And I'd say, so, the kid next to you, you know, just tell them something you like about them. Now that could have been a disaster, right? But there's a thing called redirection. So if you found they were saying, well, you really smell, or I don't like your clothes, you sort of did a little redirection. Come here, Timmy. Let's try that one again. Until we got them all straightened out. So that was my neighborhood. And now, today, I am with my husband, living at the Episcopal Church home, like some of the others here. No, all of us. And, you know, my new neighborhood, and I've only been there a short time. Here are my new playmates. They're 60, 70, 80, 90, and some 102. And we're all there with this wealth of wisdom, aren't we? I mean, it's just a fabulous thing, something that we can share with other people. So through all of this, through all this learning, is being very special. And there's a song that Mr. Rogers has called It's You I Like. Being a teacher, I'm going to grab my prop. Okay. And it's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you wear your hair, but it's you I like. The way you are right now, the way deep down inside you. Not the things that hide you, not your toys. They're just beside you. But you I like. Every part of you. Your skin, your eyes, your feelings inside, whether old or new. I hope that you remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like. It's you, just you. It's you I like. On the days when you're not feeling special, and of course none of you have those days, there are days when we can feel pretty mad and pretty stuck and pretty useless, and we don't know what to do with ourselves. And of course, Mr. Rogers had a song for that too. So, what do you do when you feel so mad? When you feel so mad you could bite. When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong, and nothing you do seems very right. What do you do? Do you pound some clay or some dough? Do you round up your friends for a game of tag? See how far you go. It's great to be able to stop when you've planned a thing that's wrong. Be able to do something else instead and sing a song. I can stop when I want to. I can stop when I wish. I can stop anytime. What a good feeling it is like this, to know that that feeling is really mine. So, being the ultimate teacher, when you go home tonight, just remember that you've got all this wisdom, you've got all this good stuff, you're really special, and it goes nowhere unless you share it. So, good night. To share with you my good friend, Lynn Lawyer.
In the world that like dragons. One is China, pretty big land, and one is Wales, a pretty small land. Well, I was born in China, and I've lived in Wales, and so I'm claiming this dragon for my own. So, in 1998, my husband, John, was given a chance for a sabbatical, and we elected to go to Cabaret, Wales, to the College of St. David for a course in Celtic Christianity. Now, Cabaret is a small town in southwestern Wales. It's in a dell, surrounded by mountains or hills, with sheep on them. And so we woke up every morning to the bleating of sheep. It was really lovely. Because we didn't have to tend to them, we just got to listen to them. But the town was so small, including the college campus, we could cover the whole thing in a 5-minute stroll. And everybody was very friendly. And so we fell in love with the place, and we just had this great time. So then, we learned, other than our class, which was phenomenal, but beyond the class, we learned that in Wales, singing, choral singing, and poetry writing are competitive sports. I'm serious. Right along with soccer and rugby. They start them in kindergarten, 4-part harmony. And they take them through grade school, and the classes compete against classes, schools against schools, regionals, nationals, and once a year at the Eisteddfod, awards are given for the best choral group and the best poetry. It's amazing. Everybody sings in Wales. And they don't sing solos, they sing choral music. So we got into this. You could go to any church on a Sunday evening and go to a hymn sing. Hymn sings were all over the place. It was marvelous fun. So we made a lot of friends, and some local friends invited us to go to Cardiff, to the stadium, for a football game, soccer game, football game. And so why not? I'd never been to a soccer game, why not go? So off we went, and here we are in this stadium, about 10,000 people in the stands, all dressed in red. And we're waiting for the game to start, and eventually it does, and then the opposing team comes out. I think it was an Italian team, I'm not quite sure about that. But I know they played the national anthem and everybody stood around like this waiting for it to get out. and then the Welsh team came out onto the field. Well, the stands erupted, just erupted in unbelievable noise. And then the team standing in a line, everybody putting their arm around each other, wrapping themselves up in flags, tears stringing down their faces, sang their national anthem. It's a beautiful hymn, a love song to Wales and to their language. Always sung in the chorus. I cannot attempt to do this because I can't produce 4-part harmony by myself. And it's always sung in Welsh, so I can't do that either. So I made up the words to the chorus when I came in. But it's a wonderful, wonderful hymn. And it was very different from anything I had ever experienced at an American game. So the game begins. And Wales gets a hold of the ball. Now you would think, go team go, would come out of the stands, right? That's what you would expect, or rah, 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 or something like that. Not so. What happened was this. Guide me on the sweet home of pilgrim in this barren land. I am weak, but thou art mighty. Let me live thy powerful hands. Oh. And that was, I was going, wait a minute, I knew that hymn. We sang it in English just now, right? Yeah. It was in Welsh, but I thought they knew it. And so the game went on, and they kept singing. Every time you turned around, they came out with another hymn. Somebody out there in the stands knew what to sing when. I don't know how they figured that out, but they did. And I knew all of them, but not in Welsh. And so then we get to the very busy part of the game. Have anybody seen a soccer game? Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of running back. Chasing the ball. You've got 22 guys and then some referees and whistles blowing and the ball flying everything. The inevitable happens when you've got that many men out there on the field. What happened? Clap. They collided midfield. Immediately, as soon as two guys hit each other, this is what happened. Crown him with many crowns, the Lamb upon his throne. My how the earthly exalts all music God and all. Arise, my soul, and sing, hallelujah, die for thee. I'm just sort of boggled. I have sung these hymns all my life. There hasn't been a Sunday when I didn't go to church and sing one or the other of them, but always in church and rather tidily, proper. And that wasn't what was happening. They were belting these things out, and it's 10,000 voices in 4-part harmony. It's pretty amazing. And so the game continues, and eventually we come in near the end of it, and Wales, of course, kicks the final goal, and they've won. Wow, they won the game. What happens? All by the power of Jesus' name, let angels prostrate fall. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. They tell us that stadiums are now the modern version of cathedrals. It's where people go to praise, right? Well, the Cardiff Stadium that afternoon was a cathedral of praise with the right kind of music. And so, next on the docket is my good friend, Julie Nash.
I'm happy to be with you, and I'm going to share something very personal with you. I am a very lucky person. My husband and I married in 1959. He happens to be here. He's sitting at the table closest to the bottom. And so that was 59 years ago. 59. It's pretty special for us this year. We've had our ups and downs through all that time. We've struggled along and helped each other and sometimes had differences. When we were young, we might have wanted to change certain things. Well, a few things did change, but a lot of other things we just learned to love. Now, one of those things about me is I grew up and still am very frugal. You might even say stingy at times. And what I like to do, I hate to admit it, but everything that's called disposable, when it gets to my apartment, I wash it, I rinse it, dry it, it's good again, and again and again. And that includes those Ziploc bags, plastic wrap, and knives, forks, and spoons from the banquet. Also, typing paper. We get a lot of announcements where we live. A lot of parties and festive things going on. And one side of the page is usually completely clean and smooth. And we just pile them up and feed them into the printer. And that printer has a good digestive system. Another thing about me is that I do prefer to shop at, Goodwill, Salvation Army, secondhand stores. I'm wearing secondhand hats, secondhand clothes. That's why they call me Secondhand Rose. Even a piano in the parlor, my daddy bought for 10 cents on the door. Secondhand shoes, secondhand hose. I hardly ever get a single thing that's new. One day when strolling through the Ritz, a gal got my goat. She nudged her friend and loudly said, "There goes my old coat." Everyone knew that I'm secondhand Judy from Second Avenue. Well, to keep this even, I'm going to tell some tales on Dave. Here's one of his traits that he's persistent and he always will. Whenever a bell rings, ding, 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 gotta get there, gotta get to the phone, gotta get to the doorbell, gotta figure out what's going on. So he gets excited and that happens all the time. We have one family gathering that we will always remember this habit of Dave. We were together enjoying the company of family from a distance, and we had teenage grandkids with us, and we had toddler grandkids there too. Toddlers all around the floor playing. And while we were talking, ding, 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 ding. So Dave, of course, gets up and runs to the phone, gets the phone, comes back, no news, like nobody was there. Okay, so we're back again talking. Then the next time, ding, 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 ding. He does the same thing, jumps and runs and leaves the group. Later he comes back. I was in a big apartment then, a big house. So he comes back later. No news, nothing happened on the phone. Okay. However, I and a few of the adults and most of the teenagers were beginning to figure out how that happened. When it happened the third time, ding, 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 and he jumps up, but we all get to laughing. We're having a wonderful joke, and Dave figured it out too. The teenagers' prank was to ring that same bell, the little toddler telephone. So we caught him then. Didn't end, you know, he still does it with his cell phone, you know. His cell phone. Gotta get to the belt, gotta get the phone. Clang, clang, clang went the trolley. Ding, ding, ding went the bell. Sing, sing, sing went my heartstrings. From the moment I saw him, I fell. Chug, chug, chug went the motor. Bump, bump, bump went the brake. Thump, thump, thump went my heartstrings. When you smiled, I could feel my heart shake. It's been a good ride and a long one, and it's still going good. I will dedicate this song to Dave, but to all of you in your lives too. I'll be loving you always with a love that's true, always. When the things you plan need a helping hand, I will understand. Always, always. Days may not be fair. Always. That's when I'll be there. Always. Not for just an hour, not for just a day, not for just a year, but always. The next person on the program is my friend, Mary Jo Hickok.
Hello, everybody. You are a fantastic audience. Thank you so much for being here tonight. For you. When it happened, I felt like I had joined the human race, the whole parade of us. Perhaps you've had a moment like that in your life, when the truth of an experience just hits you in the gut and you know it's something you'll live with forever. That's what happened to me. The first time ever I saw his face, the first time I saw my son's face, I was in major awe. I thought the sun rose in his eyes, and the moon and the stars were the gift he gave. He was so quiet. He was observing and absorbing, soaking up whatever is. His eyes look so focused. Now I know a baby's eyes can't focus that soon, but oh boy, he was looking at me. Yeah. I wonder if he sees color. Red and yellow and pink and green, purple and orange and blue. patient. I wonder if he recognizes my voice. Listen with your eyes, listen with your eyes, sing everything you see. You can sing a rainbow, sing a rainbow, sing along with me. Will he be just like he is now, only more so? I don't know. All my questions don't matter. They're for another time. This time is for quiet. This is the only time we will have like this, to hold each other's eyes and bodies. The first time I looked at my son, I knew I was looking at the face of God. Now, in the midst of this miraculous, wondrous experience, Mary came to my mind. Mary, what was it like for Mary in such rough circumstances to see her son for the first time? The Virgin Mary had one son. Oh, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, hallelujah. Glory be to the newborn King. What you gonna name your pretty little baby? Oh, pretty little baby. Oh, pretty little baby. Glory be to the newborn King. Some call him Jesus, I think I'll call him Emmanuel. Oh, think I'll call him Emmanuel. Oh, think I'll call him Emmanuel. Glory be to the newborn King. Actually, I didn't call my son Jesus. I called him Ken. And that's why today I still cherish the first time I saw his face. The first time ever I saw his face. Okay, next up we have Jeannie LaPont. Give her a warm welcome.
I like to say, I bet you. And so, I'm going to say, I bet you have never had this experience before. In case, though, you might have, I'd like to ask you to take a second look and then, well, lend a hand if you can. Now, this is the story. This is what I did, and this is what happened to me. I was driving this old car, And we're out on a county road, just myself, out on a county road, out probably in Wisconsin, and it's hot, it's dusty, no air conditioning. I'm trying to get to downtown, and as I come up to this high curve, I slow down, and I'm startled. And I slow down even further as I get through the curb. I pull off the road, I stop the car, I get out of the car, and what's walking toward me? A very young woman. She's pushing a $5 stroller with her baby sucking his bottle, and she with nothing but the clothes on her back. And I could tell she'd been walking for miles and miles. I went right up to her and I said, "Say, where are you headed?" She's walking on rocks. You know, this is a county road. She walks right by me. I tried to catch her and I said, "Say, would you like to share a ride? We can share a ride and I'll take you where you need to go." She keeps right on walking. Finally, I beg her, and I'm begging her, I say, "Come on, let's get in the car. I'll take you to whatever destination you need to get to." She turns to me finally and says, "All right." So, we get loaded in the car. And I'm starting to start the car. I look over at her and she's got this really hard look on her face. And when I looked at her in the car, I realized that I recognized that look on her face because I had had a look like that on my face before. And as we're driving, she's not saying a word. And I'm thinking of when that was, and I'm remembering that it was early in the evening, and my little boy, my baby, we had a little apartment, and he was snug as a bug in his bed. He was asleep, and I heard a knock at the door, and I went to the door, I opened it, and this man came toward me, and as I'm backing away from him, I'm thinking to myself, everybody's gotta serve somebody. Yeah, everybody's gonna serve somebody. Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but everybody's gonna serve somebody. And when it was over, well, I had a lot of choices to make. And that man came back and he tried again. And I had to make even bigger choices. Well, we're still driving along in that memory. I look over and I want to share my story with her. I want to talk to her, but she is silent. And she's got that hard look. So I'm respecting her silence, but I want to share with her that there is hope, that there's actual hopeful possibilities somewhere. And right then I thought to myself, oh yeah. And I start thinking of what was my hopeful possibility. What I want, you got, and it might be hard to handle, but like the stain that burns the candle feeds the flame. And what I've got's full stock of the thoughts and dreams that scatter. You pull them all together, and how I can't explain. No, 'cause you make my dreams come true. Oh yes you did, and I waited for you, 'cause you made my dreams come true. And we got to our destination. Our destination was Inky House. And if you know it, it's a wonderful place for women and children. And as we unloaded, and I watched, I waved, and I wished her very well, and I blew a kiss to the baby, and I watched her she was received and she was welcomed into Inky House. And as I'm sitting there, I'm missing my kids. I'm missing my little baby kids, and I'm missing my big kids. And all of a sudden, all I could think about was Jim Ed Pool. And I remember that my neighbor Ann, she and her little ones used to sit around that radio or driving to school, and they'd sing that song. You're my little potato, you're my little potato, you're my little potato, dug you up, you come from underground. Must have been a wild man child to make that wild man child. I'd play in the mud with deer just to be with you, my spud. When you came out, you were red as a beet, and you had those wrinkles on your feet. Oh, so sweet potato, you're my sweet potato, you're my sweet potato, dug you up, you came from underground.
As a claims adjuster at the time. Before that, he worked in a law office, and I worked in Hennepin County Juvenile Court Services, and I enjoyed my work. Not so much at the end, because then it seemed like it was more punishment rather than oriented, other than trying to figure out how to help these kids. And they told me I was a bleeding heart liberal. But I did have my limits, so it worked out. I broke a few rules, but when we retired, we bought this house we went down into Florida and bought a house in June of '94, and we weren't going to retire right then, or my husband was still working. I had retired in January. And we rented out the house after we had furnished it and everything to a family of 3 teenagers, 2 dogs, and a cat. And they were building a house just like that, so I thought, nah, they're going to take care of it. And they did. So in January of '95, we headed out to our new place, and we had 20 years. Not everybody gets 20 years. And so it was really a blessing. But towards the end of it, we went there in '95, and in 2015, my husband was having lots of issues, and I was too. I had a hip they told me needed to be replaced. And I thought, well, God, how can I do that? I have a dog, 2 dogs then, and we had 2 birds, and my husband. So anyway, I thought, nah, I can put up with this pain, I think. And, but in 2015, my kids said, no, you can't do this anymore. So we had to come back to Minnesota. And actually, we thought living in Minnesota was a lot harder than Florida. When we went to the doctor, we could go drive right up to the door, park in the handicap place, and then when we came back here, my husband had lots of eye issues, and then my son has to take us to the doctor. And we have to put up at this wind tunnel at the university in order to get into the building, and then he would have to go park and about 20 minutes later, he'd come back and get us up to the 6th floor, I guess. And so anyway, that was hard. And I put up with the pain in my hip, and it got a little worse. And I would tell my husband, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this much longer. And he agreed. He said, no, he said, you're almost in bad shape as I am. And he had had surgery in January of 16 and ended up with a catheter and ended up getting an infection while he was in the hospital, and then so anyway, he wasn't able to walk as steadily as he used to after all this, and I don't know if it was a vision or his neuropathy in his feet or what, but anyway, he was in bad shape. So anyway, I decided, well, if I'm going to be able to continue taking care of him, I got to go to the surgeon and make a date. So I did. I made it for May 16th, and then we had to make arrangements for the dog and the bird and my husband. And there was one aide that he had while he was in the hospital, and I think he loved her more than me. So, and she was willing to take care of him, but for some reason or other, he was trying to negotiate, you know, that she would do take care of him extra. So, other than, he seemed very stable in terms of, you know, we didn't expect him to die, but that's what he did. And it was 5 days before my surgery was scheduled. And so that was a hard decision for me, but I thought, well, no, I've got to do it, regardless. And then after the surgery, I survived. I thought maybe I wouldn't, but I did. And they kept telling me how well I was doing. And I was on hydrocodone, and I wanted to tell everybody my story. So my physical therapist got the story, sins and all. And I kept saying to my daughter, I gotta get off of this stuff before I really feel everything. The one thing I hated to think about was going back to the apartment. And the reason it was so hard. Who can I turn to when nobody needs me? My heart wants to know, so I can go where destiny leads me. With no star to guide me and no one beside me, I'll go on my way, and after the day, the darkness will hide me, but maybe tomorrow I'll find what I'm after. I'll throw off my sorrow, beg, steal, or borrow my share of laughter. With you I could learn to, with you I after I went back to the apartment, I found out that they were signing up for this kind of thing. And so instead of crying in my pillow, I am trying to learn this song. And it's been so wonderful for me, so I can recommend it to everybody. But I would like to say that this group of people have been my sunshine, and I'd like all of you to join in and sing it with me. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. CDs will be available. I would like to introduce our brave Jerry Quinn, who's put up with all of us now.
Hello out there. Hello. Newsflash. I'm getting old. And I know there are people in the audience who will verify that without any problem at all. But you know, I don't mind getting older. I don't mind aging. I mean, considering the alternative. But what I do object to is some of the labels that are put on us as we age. Senior citizen. Where's my drool cup? There are others. There are others too. It's kind of insidious. Even at the Y, they have an exercise class called Silver Sneakers. It sounds like some kind of clandestine CIA organization. There have to be other names for it. You know, I know. How about golden geezers? With that. You know, it's all over the place. The American Automobile Association offers a class for older drivers. Guess what the name of it is? 55 Alive. Older? 55 is older? Oh my God, I'm 82 alive and I love it. I've had many wonderful things happen to me throughout my life. I enjoyed working with middle school kids, postgraduate ankle biters. Always, never predictable, always, almost always fun. My children and my grandchildren have been a great joy to me. But my greatest joy was in knowing and loving my wife, Barbara. For her, it's very true. Our love is here to stay. Not for a year, they tumble, they're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay. After a long battle with Alzheimer's disease, Barbara died about 1.5 years ago. I miss her deeply, but I know she wants me to soldier on. My friends and family have been a great support for me. The Sage Singer groups at the Episcopal Home, and especially the intergenerational theater group, where high school kids come in and work with us geezers, and we have such a good time.
Yes.
That's all been given me a boost. But I think a turning point was when a friend of mine, quoting Rosalind Russell from the movie Auntie Mame, said, "Jerry, life is a banquet and most poor suckers are starving to death." Well, I'd like to join the banquet. I'm still unsure about who I am and where I'm going with the rest of my life. But I want to open a new window, open a new door, travel a new highway that's never been tried before you fell, pushing the same clock, walking the same tightrope as everyone on the block. The fellow you want to be is three-dimensional, serving up life down to your toes. Whenever they say you're suddenly unconventional, just put your tongue up to your nose and don't know how to dance with a new rhythm, whistle a new song, cancel a new vintage. Of course, it lasts too long. There's only one way to make the trouble stay. Simply travel a new highway, dance with new rhythm, open a new window every day. I love good music. And I've gotten back to the Minnesota Orchestra, the SBCO, the Lyra Baroque Orchestra, and others. But I have a special fondness for choral music. Barbara and I have a special place for choral music. For me, the human voice, the original musical instrument. So, this past season, I've attended the concerts of the Twin City Gay Men's Chorus. Beautiful, inspiring music that never fails to lift my spirits. Often, at the end of this concert, the chorus members come down into the aisles of the theater, reach out to each other, and to the audience members. And they sing this anthem-like Andy Williams song. For me, in a world with so much hate, it speaks eloquently to the universality of love. They ask, walk hand in hand with me. This is our destiny. No greater love can be. Give me your hand. Love is a symphony of perfect harmony. When lovers such as we walk hand in hand, be not afraid, for I am with your
It is my privilege to introduce the lady who will be the last performer this evening. This is my friend, Gerelda Stanton.
Good evening. It's been a long one. I hope you've enjoyed it. I was raised in North Minneapolis. And growing up, I always thought of myself as a North Minneapolis princess. Now, I know that's an oxymoron. But the fact that I have no self-perception and nobody told me I wasn't, it made for a very happy childhood. I always felt as if I were one off. And I was always asking why. I mean, why were we born in such a complex life without a handbook? Why are there so many stars? Why do people love each other? There are a million things that a kid could wonder about. And I did. I wonder why the world turns. I wonder why my heart yearns for rainbows and prisms and songs I can sing, for shiny and glistening, untouchable things. I wonder, just where does space end? I wonder what lies round that bend of each road I travel on my merry way. I wonder what can happen today. The world is so full of such wondrous things, with surprises and deep mystery, like square root and popcorn and black holes and me. How great the creator must be. Wonder, just feeling my way. Can I cope with the wonders that I'll meet each day? But I'll take this life one day at a time and be thankful for the wonders that I find are mine. Well, I grew up, I went to the U, and I gave up all thoughts of Broadway when I met a guy. Now, he wasn't that handsome, and he certainly wasn't rich, which I thought I deserved as a North Minneapolis princess. But he was smart, he was funny, and he took me to his poetry class, and I was hooked. We were married 3 weeks after graduation. And I soon learned, though, something was missing in my James. My mother had always told me that it was all right to tell the people that you love that you did, but don't expect them to do the same. Some people just can't. And my James was one of those. But I'm an optimist at heart, and after 10 years of marriage, I knew I was making progress when he rolled over one morning and said, "I really like you, Chair." I often sang him this song. I'll teach you to love, I'll teach you to care, and in a million little ways, my love with you I'll share. I'll win you with kindness, I'll wear you with my charm, and though you be as cold as ice, your heart will start to warm. It's hard to resist one who wishes you well, and in time to love me. Well, life went on and I learned about love. There are all kinds of love. You love your parents, you love your friends, you love your spouse, and the last, your children, of which I have 8. And I always thought I was a hotshot at this mothering game, but I baked them bread, I taught them to read, I wrote them songs, and they had a different idea. You can tell them, kids. Best of all possible mothers, and though I'm not so hot, remember, dear little children, I'm the only one you've got. You're wakened each morning with kisses. She yells from the foot of the bed. You're fed on hot homemade dishes.
On Wheaties we all are well fed.
I'm a nurse and I cared for my dearies.
Take aspirin when we're sick.
I practice all the new theories.
She hits us with a big stick.
I work and I slave all the day long.
There's a cleaning woman, she pays.
I may go out but don't stay long.
We don't see her for days and for days. Best of all possible mothers,
And though I'm not so hot, remember, dear little children, I'm the only one you've got. Well, no more a North Minneapolis princess. I'm just a little old lady living in an old folks home. But I'm a happy one, and I'm still learning about life and love and wonder. And the real wonder tonight is at almost 91, I've had the nerve to stand in front of you and sing my trite little songs. I hope you enjoyed them. And I've changed the last verse of my wonder song. I wonder, and now at life's end, I still wonder and wonder what lies round that bend. There may be just nothing, but no mind do I pay. I'm delighted to be wondering for just one more day.
And none of this could have been possible tonight without Joey Clark and Andrea Lee.